For years, no, decades, Tottenham have been the most successful failures of our generation, a team that never fails to disappoint. They are the second highest scorers in the Premier League. And what do they have to show for it? They are level on points with Manchester United. Considering the season United have had, that's not saying much. How much more do the fans have to suffer? At the time of recording, Tottenham have outscored Arsenal, a team competing for the league title. And for all their effort, for all that work, they are mid-table. Tottenham are closer to the relegation zone than they are for qualifying for top 4. How has this been allowed to happen? Ange Postecoglou is my guy. I want him to succeed. But how has he lasted this long in the job? Daniel Levy, a man known for sacking Jose Mourinho 6 days before a cup final, the man who sacked arguably our most successful manager in the last 15 years, has allowed Ange to stay in the job even though the club are 13th. Make it make sense. No manager has done worse than Ange in terms of results in the last 7 years, and yet most fans still continue to persist with this man. In this video, we're going to take a deep dive into Ange Postecoglou, looking at the tactics, the board, and the current state of Tottenham Hotspur. To say the Spurs' situation was dire after sacking Mauricio Pochettino is an understatement. After years of having to deal with boring, bland, defensive, no-nonsense football from Jose Mourinho, Antonio Conte, and the forgotten Nuno Espirito Santos, for the first time in 5 years, there was genuine hope, genuine optimism that the club was heading in the right direction, and it all started with the appointment of Ange Postecoglou. Now, many questioned this appointment considering his previous job was at Celtic, and apart from this, his only other previous experience in European football was managing a third division side in Greece. But this hadn't been the first time Ange faced criticism in his career. He faced similar criticism at his former club Celtic before going on to silence the doubters by completing a historic treble in just his second season at the club. Ange achieved this feat through signing relatively unknown players, making this feat that more impressive. But even after all this, football experts still wrote him off, saying that he wouldn't be able to cope with the pressure, even though he had been managing in football for over 20 years and had built a reputation for winning trophies, much like the special one himself, Jose Mourinho. But no one could foresee what was to come next. At the start of the season, Tottenham were, dare I say, title contenders. Ange had already silenced the doubters, winning 8 matches in his first 10 Premier League games. Not bad for a guy who was managing at Celtic. But the real question was how he managed this feat in just a short space of time at the club. The answer was his attractive brand of football. Postecoglou played an offensive, high-risk, high-reward brand of football that saw Spurs contending for the league title at the start of last season. During his first 6 months, no team had an answer for his aggressive style of play, beating the likes of Liverpool and Manchester United along the way. The same football experts that said he would fail were now the ones giving him praise. But something changed after Spurs played Newcastle away from home. Tottenham on that day were demolished 4-0. This was the day Tottenham's season took a turn for the worse. The reality was that Tottenham were tactically exposed by Newcastle United. Teams around the league took notice of Tottenham's tactical frailties and began exploiting the weaknesses in their game. The same tactics that saw Spurs soar to the summit of the Premier League table earlier in the season were now the same tactics being used against them. I'll go more onto tactics later in the video. Spurs began dropping points against the likes of Brighton, Fulham, and Wolverhampton Wanderers, teams they were expected to get better results against. These results prevented Spurs from qualifying for the top 4 at the end of the season. Despite these losses, Ange was convinced that his tactics weren't the problem and that the team needed more time to adapt to his game plan. The media, on the other hand, were convinced that Ange couldn't tactically adapt his game to the Premier League. Fast forward to the end of the 2023-2024 season, Spurs failed to secure a top 4 finish, a major disappointment considering that they were top of the table at the start of the season, but a good season nonetheless, qualifying for European football while playing an attractive brand of football. But fans still had questions on the team's style of play and whether it was sustainable for the long term. Fast forward to this season, and the same tactical problems they had in the previous season haven't been addressed, and the team continues to suffer as a consequence. There are major drawbacks to Ange Postecoglou's system, but the biggest one is committing too many players forward. But it's a lot more complicated than just that. Spurs commit players forward to overwhelm the opposition into making mistakes. Now, this is great when they're scoring goals, but the problem comes when defending. When you commit that many players forward, you leave yourself vulnerable to the counter-attack, and this is how Spurs concede majority of their goals. Yes, we praise Spurs for scoring the second most goals in the league, but what good is scoring goals when you're conceding just as many at the other end? Spurs are ranked 8th for the most goals conceded in the Premier League, and this is down to a style of play that leaves their defenders constantly in a 1v1. But this isn't the only drawback. The fullbacks take up central positions during build-up play, but this leaves them high up the pitch, making it difficult for them to track back. This leaves a major gap in the defense, making defending a nearly impossible job for the two centre-backs. It's important to note that Ange this season has made tactical tweaks to prevent these problems from reoccurring. The team has adopted a more conservative build-up play in recent months, and this has helped the team in conceding less goals, but results have still stayed the same. In my opinion, the number one reason why Spurs are 13th is down to the amount of injuries the team has sustained from the physical demands of Ange's system. Spurs are ranked 3rd for injuries across the entire league, but it's not down to luck, it's down to their unbearable play style. Playing in this system across a 50-60 game season is something the players just haven't been able to deal with. We can't blame the manager for all the injuries the team has sustained. These injuries are down to the board not giving the manager much needed reinforcements in the summer transfer window for such a demanding system. I know the club bought in Archie Gray and Lucas Bergvall and Dominic Solanke, but Archie Gray and Lucas Bergvall were unproven teenagers. They weren't seen as first team signings. The only real first team signing was Dominic Solanke, and even he hasn't necessarily hit the ground running. Some signings made in the summer transfer window have been injury prone, but the board stepped up their game in the winter transfer window with the signings of Kevin Danzo to strengthen the backline, securing the signature of one of the most sought after talents in world football in Matthijs Tel was a major boost to the squad. These were statement signings from the board. Imagine if the club had added Mark Gay on deadline day, only if Crystal Palace hadn't rejected a £70 million bid from the club. The club has also bought in a second choice keeper. The board has backed the manager, and we have to give them praise for that, but the team would have been in a much better position if Ange had been given these signings much sooner. The board can't be held responsible for everything. The manager's decision making needs to be questioned as well. Jed Spence wasn't given a chance in the first team until the second half of the season, and was only given that chance because of all the injuries the team had sustained. He's been one of the best players in the league since he came in, but why has it taken the manager 6 months to give this player a chance in the first team? There have been questions on why he doesn't make rotations even when he has a fully fit squad, and this is down to Spurs just not having good enough players to play in his system. We also have to look at his in-game management. Fans have wondered why Ange doesn't make substitutions earlier in the game, considering the team's high-energy playstyle. In all fairness to Ange, he hasn't had much of a squad to make substitutions, considering half the squad are always injured. Make no mistake, Spurs fans want to see this manager succeed. They don't want to go through another rebuild. The fans believe that Ange is the right man for the job. But the question remains, how much time will he be given to prove his worth? Daniel Levy isn't a man known for his patience, especially considering that results haven't been going their way, with the club failing to advance to the League Cup final as well as being knocked out of the FA Cup. One can only assume that the manager's days are numbered. However, it's not all over just yet. Ange still has the Europa League as a last-ditch effort to save his job. The final question remains, will Spurs finally lift their first trophy in over 14 years, or will Ange just be another manager that failed at Tottenham? If you enjoy football videos like the one you just watched, check out this one where I discuss on how Brighton became the best run club in the world. If you enjoyed the video, click subscribe. I will see you in the next one.